And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Wednesday, October 8th, 1:06 in the afternoon. Temperatures outside in the 50s. Many areas this morning saw their first frost and or freeze, although we did not here in the Fargo area. We stayed above the freezing mark, but areas up around Hillsboro, even down south towards Wahpeton. Most areas around Fargo saw, again, temperatures in the 20s and 30s this morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. And did you have any frost on the windshield out in Hunter this morning, Bridgette?
Currently frost-free right here in town, but that doesn't mean that we didn't see some in the countryside, and especially in low-lying areas. And most would welcome a frost, the opportunity to see us get rid of some bugs and see some plants continue to dry up. There's still corn that needs to move out of its green state, you might say. So if we can get that frost, we'd be okay with it.
And we don't see any, not too much in the forecast here. As we head into the rest of the week, we're going to have some pretty decent temperatures. And outside today, right now, we're in the 50s, and we're going to warm up to about 66 today with breezier conditions out of the south-southeast at about 10 to 25. Not as chilly tonight. Those southerly winds will help keep our temperatures up into the mid-40s to upper 40s. And then for Thursday, we're looking at partly cloudy skies and a mild one with highs in the low to mid 70s. A cold front swings through Thursday night. That will drop our temperatures into the low 40s, and then sunshine, light winds, but cooler on Friday with highs in the low 60s. Then we take a look into the weekend. And a pretty strong storm system will be winding out of the northern Rockies. That'll give us warmer temperatures into the 60s on Saturday, low to mid 70s Sunday. Also give us a chance for a few showers and thunder showers one round Saturday night, and then a better chance Sunday afternoon as a cold front approaches. Then we'll see a break on Monday, and it looks like our models were hinting at this about a week ago. Now they're coming into better agreement of a bigger storm system coming our way the middle of next week. This could be one of those signature LRC storms, one of those bigger ones that rotates back each cycle. And it looks like next week will be on the warm side of it with rain, but it looks like a pretty decent size. At least it has the potential to be a pretty decent-sized storm system by the middle of next week. So that's something we'll be keeping a close eye on there. But other than that, pretty seasonal temperatures to a little bit above normal until we get to next week.
Well, we will watch to see what becomes of it, because the weather is just one thing we're keeping our eyes on. One of the other things are non-U.S. steel tariffs. You've probably heard me mention this before. We have a situation right now with some unintended consequences for some of our farmers. So, for example, you have bought a MacDon header and you need parts out of Canada, which is rather easy if you live in border counties to from the U.S. to Canada in North Dakota or Montana. But what's been happening is, as farmers are going to get parts, new regulations specify that border agents make a detailed breakdown of the steel content in both the new and used equipment, including precise percentages and specifics about the smelting process, which at this point, there's a lot of folks saying, I have no idea. Now, under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, only steel not smelted in North America was subjected to the steel tariff, but this is a new regulation. So what's happening? Some farmers are trying to bring parts back across the U.S. border. They're being charged upward of 50% tariff on just the steel. Others have no idea where the steel was smelted, so they really can't come to agreement. In some situations, border agents just say, never mind, you go ahead and get on out of here. But in other cases, they're just leaving the parts behind and saying, I'll have to figure it out a different way because these tariffs are high. You're not allowing me to go back over the border with parts. And so, again, one of those unintended consequences we're seeing. And imagine if you buy a piece of equipment, you have to figure out where every bit of steel came from, which country, if it was in the U.S., if it was not, all of those things. It makes it a little bit more daunting when it comes to some of the things you might be buying, even on the secondhand market right now. Interesting
very
situation.
Interesting. And Bridgette, I was reading on a national media outlet, and I don't know if this is spot on, but that or if you've heard anything, Trump is working on a bailout for specifically our soybean farmers. Is that accurate?
There's been quite a bit of discussion. No movement has been made as of yet. There's speculation whether or not it'll truly happen, but the discussion is certainly there. you'll hear many farmers say, I'd rather not talk about a bailout. I would rather we discuss farm input prices and their incremental increases every year that have been continuing to squeeze the profit margin that a farmer can make. And the same would be said for interest rates, et cetera, and all of that going up. So I think that at this point, the discussion is there. There's certainly a lot of reasons for it, but most farmers will tell you we don't want to bail out. We just want to be able to produce a crop where we can have a decent profit. And if that means having a conversation with some of these input companies, that may be the case. We'll see how that looks.
What would a bailout consist of? Like for just the general public saying, oh, why should we help bail out our farmers? You know, what would that consist of for our farmers? I mean, is this something they have to pay back? Is this basically a low interest free loan? How does that work? Or is each bailout kind of different?
They can be different, and I don't think any of those details have been set. So we don't necessarily know if this is just a check with dollars attached, no strings,
right?
Or if this is a short-term loan situation. I think there's a lot of farmers. I had a conversation, in fact, with a farmer from the Illinois-Missouri border last Thursday-ish, and his comment was, look, if I could do a short-term bridge loan to get me through this tight cash flow situation I'm in at the end of harvest, where I'm not selling any beans yet because I'm waiting for my price to come up, that would be helpful. Get me something at a 2% interest rate, which we have done in North Dakota as a bridge loan with Bank of North Dakota for short-term storage solutions post June 20th derecho. So maybe we would see something along those lines, but it's too soon to tell. I don't think anything has really been sorted out yet in that regard.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to watch what they do. Keep in mind that today, if you have questions like Dean's or others, you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line. That number is 701-293-9000. You can always send emails to weather or ag@flagfamily.com. Also, today is Wednesday for weather trivia. We'll be doing that sometime this hour, so you'll definitely want to be paying attention when it's time. And we do need you to call on the JLA Insurance phone line, although we appreciate you're watching us on Acres TV, Facebook, and YouTube at WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. We still need you to call in on the days that we do trivia. So
we've got a fun one today. We've got a fun one today, and it's a dual answer. You have to have both of them right. I'm making it a little difficult because last week's was kind of an easy one. So we'll hit that towards the end of the show.
Okay, that one should work out very well. And we appreciate folks being here and listening or watching from the Coral Laundromat studio, because remember, in farming, well, it's dirty. And when that happens, you want to make sure to have a place to take things to get them cleaned up, and you can with the Coral Laundromat Coral Laundromat at 3620 Veterans Boulevard. Maybe not drop off your laundry with us at the studio. I mean, I'm only so good at so many things. Maybe laundry's not my thing today. But this can include your mechanics uniforms. If you're a construction worker, you've got some things that need to be cleaned up. Horse blankets, they've even got oversized washers for those horse blankets. So just a few things to keep in mind for today. And there's much, much more to talk about. I have several other ag headlines for us to discuss today. Thankfully, we had a guest who said she could join us on her day off, and I owe Molly Murch a great big thanks. Molly is a stroke educator at Essentia. What a great time to talk to farmers about their health when you're all in your tractor cabs for the grain cart, combines, or semis because you're sitting in line waiting to unload. So we're going to talk about healthcare today, and sometimes we're good at it, and sometimes we're really not. So we'll be doing more with that today. I do also want to say a big thank you to M State. Last week, Melissa Goodman, one of their instructors, had me come in and speak to an agribusiness class, and we talked about ag communications, jobs in ag, and so much more. And so again, thanks to M State and Melissa Goodman's class for letting me come in and speak. Dean, I know you and I both get asked to speak to groups and classroom visits. We hope that more people reach out like that. Education is a big part of what we do every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had a lot of people ask to talk about the LRC. Love educating people about the LRC and just anything weather related, and just as you do when it comes to ag. So it's nice to spread knowledge.
I think it is. And again, I really like it when people send in questions and they're just curious about various things that happen in ag, just like you were about the farm bailout. I've had several discussions just this morning, even about fertilizer prices, because we talked earlier this week on a couple of our shows about the fact that anhydrous ammonia, the liquid form of nitrogen, is currently at a more reasonable price point than what we would see with our liquid, which is a 28 or a 32% UAN, and even what we see for system dry nitrogen, urea. Now, you need to have a conversation with your supplier because it's going to be very dependent on each individual person's buy, where they stand in supply, and so forth. So don't just take my word for it. All I can do is read you the headlines. It's your job to go out and do the homework and talk to those suppliers as quickly as you can to make sure if you're looking for anhydrous ammonia, you have supply. And if you're going to be able to find it right here in the Red River Valley, due to regulations, we have a lot of places that no longer carry that form of nitrogen. All right, probably time for us to pick up the American Ag Network for our livestock report. Once we return from that, our guest is early today, and I have no reason to hold back, but we'll visit with Molly Murch. Again, she is with Essentia Health. We're going to talk about strokes and all sorts of other health aspects on the farm. We'll be back. It's a great day to make a phone call to Tech Support Farm and talk to Chris Sherman because you want to make sure that your internet, your email, and all of your valuable documents that you are online looking at accounts, etc., are protected. And Chris can do that for you. He wants to make sure that none of those bad actors who are out there hacking other people's email get into yours. So reach out to Chris Sherman at Tech Support Farm. Also keep in mind that we have an upcoming opportunity to host a virtual radio farm show. Mark your calendars, November 5th. We are hosting the WDAY Farm Show, and it's going to be all day long programming, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are going to talk about everything happening in agriculture. I was booking guests just this morning for it, and so you're going to want to tune in. I think when I take an hour, I'm planning on putting about 3 to 4 guests within that hour and making it a bit of a roundtable discussion. So you get to hear a ton of opinions all at once. I promise to referee it well. There won't be any arguments, but I bet there'll be a lot to learn. And there'll be prizes and games to play and so much more. So pay attention. Again, that's November 5th, right here on WDAY. Our guest today is Molly Murch. Sounds like she's been helping you out with a lot of information in the studio while I'm out today.
Oh man, I'm telling you, we were talking during commercial break and about how weather and strokes can be kind of or brain bleed. I don't want to overstep my words here. Can go hand in hand. So Molly is a wealth of information. This is going to be a great segment.
Okay, so Molly, does that tell us that at this point we're concerned that when we had a full moon the last couple nights that things like this are happening? Or explain what you do and why we can ask you all sorts of stroke questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me on. I'm Molly Murch. I'm the stroke program educator at Essentia Health here in Fargo, and love coming out and doing education. So everybody needs to know the signs and symptoms of a stroke, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a healthcare worker, whether you're a high school student, a nursing school student. Everybody needs to know the signs and symptoms of a stroke.
And so, Molly,
Okay.
what are some of the classic signs of a stroke and some signs that people might overlook?
Absolutely. So I brought Dean here a magnet, and so we want people to remember to be fast. So it used to be just fast, and now we say be fast. So balance, eyes, face, arms, speech, time, or T can also stand for sudden, terrible headache. So the biggest thing to remember with strokes is that strokes happen suddenly. 1 minute the person's fine, maybe they're going out to lunch with a family member or friend, and then boom, they have symptoms. The other thing to remember with strokes is that they only affect one side of the body. So that facial droop is only going to happen on one side, the weakness in their arm or leg are only going to happen on one side, and vision changes are going to happen on one side. The B, though, B stands for balance. So sudden balance, coordination, dizziness episodes, that can happen throughout. So be fast is what we really hone in on. Everybody needs to know, be fast.
Okay, Molly, you're a stroke education specialist. You said something about going out into communities. So do you work with local ambulance squads, nursing homes, fire departments? Tell us more about where your outreach goes.
Yep. So my main role as the Essentia Health Stroke Program educator is educating the patients that are in our hospital. So somebody who's experienced a stroke,
Okay.
Educating those patients and their family members when they're in the hospital at Essentia. But one of the things I love to do is, yes, going out into our rural communities. I'm actually originally from Hunter, North Dakota. Yay. love going out to rural communities and providing education. Now, whether that's, our EMS staff, whether that's going out to our senior citizen centers in our rural communities, whether it's going out to high schools or elementary schools. And then we do a lot of critical access boot camps. So my colleague in the STEMI program at Essentia will actually go out to, let's say, Rugby, North Dakota, or Cavalier, North Dakota. We'll go all the way up to those facilities and educate their staff on what do they do when somebody's coming into their facility with a possible stroke or STEMI.
I don't think we can say it enough, the be fast, right? Because you said things like, and I probably don't even have these in the right order, but balance, right, was one of them.
Yes.
Eyes was another. What's the deal with the eyes? Do your eyes track differently if you are a stroke victim?
Yep. So like I said earlier, it affects one side of the body. So all of a sudden, a patient is going to experience sudden blurry vision in one eye. They may see two of something, so sudden double vision. Maybe they look at their coffee cup and why is there 2 coffee cups there and there's actually only one? Another thing that we've been seeing a lot more is something called CREO, or central retinal artery occlusion. It's actually a stroke of your eye. So you can all of a sudden have sudden blindness in one eye. And I mean, gone. The vision is gone. You can't see shapes, colors, anything. So sudden, painless vision loss in one eye, that's not a good sign. That could very well be you're having a stroke of the eye. And so you need to get into the hospital right away so we can hopefully get you treatment to get your vision back.
So these are some of the main signs for stroke. Are there any like minor warning signals, like before maybe a stroke might come on a day, a week later? Are there any warning signals prior to some of these main signals?
Yep. So there are 3 different types of strokes. 3 main types of strokes are ischemic strokes and hemorrhagic strokes. Those, again, both come on fast. 1 minute the person's fine, the next minute they're having these symptoms. However, patients can also experience something called a TIA. So that's called a transient ischemic attack. And that's when all of a sudden they may have the sudden be fast symptoms, but these symptoms only last for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they're back to normal. That's our brain's way of saying, hey, Dean, something's not right up here. I'm not getting enough blood and oxygen.
That's daily, but okay. Bridgette will.
I share an office with him when I'm in. I get it, yeah.
So those TIAs are actually what we call warning strokes, because our brains and our bodies are trying to warn us, hey, something's not right. You know, maybe you have an undiagnosed heart condition like AFib. Maybe you've got a hole in your heart like a PFO. Maybe you haven't been to the doctor in 20 years, and now you've got risk factors. Farmers.
Yeah, right.
Yep, you would be exactly. And that's why I called you, because as I was thinking about today and we, having a guest on, and I realized that we have a very captive audience because every farmer is in a cab somewhere. So Molly, they have to hear your message today because they're probably not really good at taking themselves to the doctor very often.
Absolutely. So we were actually just out at the Big Iron Farm Show a couple weeks ago, and many of the farmers from the area actually said, well, this is the one time a year I get my blood pressure checked or I get my cholesterol level checked. So, yep, farmers, they run our country, they feed our population, so they are hard workers, and a lot of times they don't have time to go into the doctor or maybe have that follow-up, every 6 months or once a year. And so their blood pressure is uncontrolled. Maybe their diabetes isn't well managed. Maybe they're not eating as well as they should or staying as active as they should. So farmers are one of the populations we like to focus on. And because we're such a farming community in North Dakota and Minnesota, we like to hone in on that population. So,
and how much does stress come into factor in terms of, this time of the year for our farmers, it can be stressful. We've got tariffs, and we've got, soybeans that are might have to hold off for a while on being sold. So how much does stress come into a factor on this?
Absolutely. So Dean and I were talking earlier that the number one risk factor for every type of stroke, so ischemic, hemorrhagic, or TIA, is high blood pressure. Well, stress, as we know, can indirectly affect our blood pressure. So if you do have chronic stress, that could be slowly chipping away at your blood pressure and causing you to be at a higher risk. So stress management, even though it's very hard this time of year, it's very important to have some type of stress relief to help keep that blood pressure down.
All right. And Molly, we've got Tom on line one real quick before we go to break. Tom, do you have a question for Molly?
Yeah, just real quick. So can previous head injuries be a precursor to a stroke? And it's so easy to hit your head on anything in farming or just in normal. Can that be a precursor to a stroke?
Good question, Tom.
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, Tom. So yes, anytime we have injury to our brain, so our brain is lined not only on the surface, but way down deep, we've got lots of arteries and vessels. And over time, these arteries and vessels can wear down, especially, again, with like high blood pressure. But if you've had any history of a brain injury, it could be that those vessels maybe have been damaged. And that's why, again, controlling your blood pressure is very important, because if one day all of a sudden, boom, you have a high blood pressure episode, that vessel that maybe has been weakened over time or from a previous head injury can rupture. and now we're dealing with something called a hemorrhagic stroke or a brain bleed. So it's very important that your doctor is aware of your previous head injuries.
And can these vessels heal themselves over time?
Once a vessel has ruptured, it can heal, but it takes time. Sometimes
Okay.
we have small vessels, and then we have large arteries that sometimes can be impacted. So again, carotid stenosis, the arteries that bring blood from your heart to your head, those can actually get plugged up over time, especially in our patients who have high cholesterol or smokers. Those carotid arteries can get plugged up, and once they're plugged, 100% plugged, we can't do anything about it.
Interesting.
Ooh, well, Molly, it's a good thing you're here. I mean, just I don't want to just peg farmers, but who are listening, but for all of those who just go, I'll go to the doctor next time, or it can't be that bad. Well, today might be the day that you realize it's that bad. Lots of questions for Molly when we return. This is Molly Murch. She is the stroke program educator with Essentia Health. Stay tuned after our news break. We'll continue to visit with her, and you can call us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. thank you to those sponsors who've been a big part of our Hair Regrow project this year. One is Gowan USA, and Marcia Van Leer would recommend to you, don't forget about using Vita, especially for burn down post crop right now. Weed control this season didn't get an A+. And so we want to make sure that we take care of things, especially like water hemp. So go after it with Vita for better weed control. And also thanks to Peterson Farm Seed. They brought us one of their wheat varieties. It was rolls. I did not get a chance to eat a caramel roll in the field, but boy, it would have been fitting. And we thank them for the help that they did to bring our wheat crop to fruition. Our guest in studio today is Molly Murch. She is a stroke program educator. And Molly, one of the questions that I got from a friend who's listening was, what if you have a stroke and don't know? Can it be diagnosed later, or are there some signs that maybe you missed?
Wow, that is a great question. So we will have patients that will come in, maybe have a routine screening, maybe talk to their doctors about some of the symptoms they've been experiencing, and we'll do some imaging of their brain. And, your MRI shows that you have had an infarction or a stroke. Again, most symptoms, come on suddenly. The biggest thing I want people to remember is that you all know what your normal is. Normal baseline behavior, how you function is. When you have that sudden neuro change when, this isn't my normal. I'm normally not dizzy. I'm normally stronger on my one side. My vision's a little bit different. I'm suddenly having a really bad headache. That's, again, your brain's way of saying something might be going on. So most of the time you will know if you've had a stroke or you're having signs and symptoms of a stroke. But again, we do catch patients when they come into the hospital or they have a follow-up with their provider that, your MRI shows that you have had a history of a stroke and maybe you never knew it. So unfortunately, that does happen.
Well, I tell you what, this guy is a farmer, and he said one of the things that he started to figure out was he kept getting a headache that wouldn't go away. And he did start to notice that he's right-hand dominant, and he wasn't able to twist wrenches and use pliers and so forth. And so that was one of the reasons he finally went in. And his doctor told him it was probably about 3 months ago that he had a stroke.
Absolutely. So, yep, he was, noticing those maybe slight changes in his, ability to work a wrench or have those headaches. It's not bad, but I'll keep an eye on it, and then come to find out, I probably should have went in and been evaluated. So,
yeah, we've gotten that looked at a little bit sooner. One of the things that folks wonder about too, when we know about a heart attack, we only have X amount of time to get help. Is it the same situation with strokes?
Absolutely. Great question. So yes, again, we like to use the phrase time is brain. So every minute that someone's experiencing a stroke, whether it's a blockage due to a clot, so an ischemic stroke, or a bleed in the brain, a hemorrhagic stroke, every minute that someone's experiencing a stroke, they're losing 2 million brain cells a minute.
Whoa.
2 million brain cells a minute. And so that's why time is brain, recognizing those signs and symptoms and getting into the hospital as soon as possible. Our ischemic stroke treatments are time sensitive. So if somebody is experiencing a stroke caused by a clot, we can actually give them a medication to help bust up the clot. And also our team at Essentia can go up into the patient's brain and take out a clot if it's causing a major stroke. So yes, time is brain. Time sensitive treatments are very important.
Wow. And Molly, we were talking during commercial break about, you were saying this is kind of a peak time of the year where people get strokes. And I kind of joked around about, it must be, let's blame the weather. And I was kidding, but the weather does play a factor in strokes. Explain how that is possible.
Absolutely. So as Dean and I were talking during break, strokes can actually happen to anyone at any age. So it's not just an old person disease. Anyone at any age can have a stroke. So again, we talked about how in our brain we have these blood vessels. And over time, these blood vessels can get worn and torn. Well, this time of year, we just had a switch in the weather. We went from a warm, hot environment to now a little bit cooler. So what changes outside is our barometric pressure. And if you think about pressure on the outside, putting now pressure on the brain, and those vessels in our brain are already weak, that can put a person at a higher risk for what we call a hemorrhagic stroke. Those vessels are under extra pressure and can now pop and cause a hemorrhagic stroke.
That's interesting. Wow. So in other words, if we get a strong storm, like next week, we're supposed to have a very large storm system come into the upper Midwest Northern Plains. So that big pressure change could, if somebody has weaker blood vessels in there, cause a
hemorrhagic stroke. Yep. So that's when we have sudden bleeding on the brain. So again, you're going to have those be fast symptoms. But with hemorrhagic strokes, the biggest thing I want people to know is that it's a sudden worst headache of their life on one side. So
it doesn't matter which side.
Doesn't matter which side. Okay. Sudden headache, horrible headache, one side of the body, maybe coupled with nausea, vomiting, vision changes. That could be that vessel in your brain has popped and you now have blood on your brain. And that's not a good situation.
Okay. Is this kind of like when you hear nurses in the birthing centers say full moon, et cetera, means you get more babies, or a low pressure system, all of a sudden moms go into labor? Vets tell you the same thing. Like, it happens with cattle as well. But the weather plays a pretty big role and spike in what we're doing. It can be all of those different cycles, correct?
Absolutely. So I've been in this role for 4 years, and it's interesting when we have this switch from summer to fall and then winter to spring, we actually see an increased number of hemorrhagic strokes. And again, I think it's due to the pressure changes, but also it could be due to the, stress of, the farmers are working hard and heavy this time of year.
Yeah.
And that's one day they have that high blood pressure episode and that vessel blows. So, it's very interesting. And there's been research done on this. So I told Dean we'll have to do something here this next year. And he's the weather guy. So we'll have to maybe look into this. I like doing my research.
So Molly's weather warnings, basically.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay. Prevention. Is there anything we can do to prevent strokes from happening?
Absolutely. So that's the next biggest thing when it comes to stroke. The first thing is recognizing. So again, be fast. But guess what? 80% of strokes are preventable. We can't say that about a lot of conditions, but 80% of strokes are preventable. So I had mentioned it earlier, the number one risk factor for every type of stroke we see is uncontrolled, undiagnosed, and unmanaged high blood pressure. So knowing your risk factors is huge. So high blood pressure.
And what is considered high?
Very good. So actually the American Heart Association just switched our guidelines for blood pressure parameters, and you are now considered hypertensive if you are 130 over 80.
Whoa.
It used to be 140 over 90. You are now considered hypertensive at 130 over 80. So high blood pressure, number one risk factor. We also see high cholesterol or hyperlipidemia. AFib is another big one. So AFib is when somebody has an irregular heart rhythm and they need to be on medications to control that. Smoking and vaping, big time risk factors. They actually put somebody 2 to 4 times higher risk for a stroke if you smoke and vape.
Jay Thomas, are you listening?
Hold on. Does chewing tobacco count the same way?
Absolutely. Any type of product that can raise your blood pressure puts you at a higher risk.
Okay.
Yes. So,
And I ask that because I know a lot of guys who chew when it comes,
Yes.
especially this time of the year when you are out combining and your stress level is through the roof trying to get things managed.
yes. So again, knowing your risk factors and having that checkup with your doctor every year, knowing what your levels are, especially when you're thinking about your cholesterol levels and your blood pressure levels. And if you are out in the field today and you feel like, my heart feels like it's skipping a beat, or God, my heart seems to be racing. Might be time for you to go in and see your doctor and have them do an EKG and look and see what is your heart doing. Because again, our hearts and our heads are connected. So if you start having an issue with your heart, you're at a higher risk for a stroke.
That's a great question right there, or a great thought. You can pretty much call your doctor and say, I want a heart checkup.
Absolutely. Yes, and if you don't have a primary care doctor, get one established. Actually, anybody over the age of 40 should be following up with doctors on a yearly basis and getting their cholesterol level checked at least once a year. So again, yes, blood and oxygen come from our heart and go up into our brain. And so if we're having issues with our heart, it's going to put us at a higher risk for a stroke.
I can't tell if I should take care of my cybersecurity first, if I should call my primary care doctor, if I need to try to work on where I got the the steel from my combine. I mean, I got a lot of stuff to do today based off this show, you guys.
Uh, and
uh,
excuse me. So Molly, are there any? And like I said, I didn't have any. I just found out recently that I went in for an MRI. I was having some what I consider minor health issues, and found out that I had a bunch of mini strokes in the backside. I believe it was the backside of the brain, and I really didn't have any symptoms. So what would you say to people? I think the best thing is, go in for your annual physical. Make sure a lot of this is hereditary. You said with the high blood pressure. Just the best way to prevent this, obviously, be smart and
Be fast.
or be fast. Sorry, and smart too.
Yes.
And in your annual physical too.
Yep, and again, knowing your family history, that's a huge thing. So actually, you can be a lean, mean fighting machine. You can be extremely healthy, but if you had a stroke in a first-degree relative, so mom, dad, brother, or sister, you're automatically at a 12% higher risk for having a stroke. So again, it's good to know your personal history, but also family history, because you very well could be at risk for a stroke just because mom or dad had a stroke or brother or sister had a stroke.
Very interesting.
wow. Okay. Yeah, this was great. Molly,
We're
thanks
gonna
for taking time on your day off.
we're
to
gonna
come
have
and help
Molly.
us.
We're gonna have Molly back. I've got more questions.
Oh, I got plans. I got plans for
Awesome.
this.
Well, Molly, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yes.
And when we come back, we'll have our weather trivia. And if we have any time, we'll hit on a couple of ag topics. All of that and more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to Weather and Ag and Focus 153 in the afternoon. We've got Oscar on line one. We're going to take a quick call from Oscar, and then we're going to try and get to weather trivia here. Oscar, what's going on today?
No, go ahead and do your weather because we're going to run out of time. I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Oscar.
All right. All right, Oscar.
It's called Stump the Band.
Okay, good deal. Well, we'll try it tomorrow. Thanks, Oscar. All right, so weather trivia for a chance to win the Darter plastic rain gauge, those heavy-duty ones. And it's a two-part question, so you're going to have to get both answers correct. And here it is. What is the hottest and most humid state in the United States? That's two separate answers. It's not the same answer. What is the hottest state in the United States and the most humid state in the U.S.? 701-293-9000. Bridgette, any idea? One of the answers, actually, they both threw me for a curveball, but after diving into it, it makes 100% sense. But I was kind of thrown on one of the answers.
I have some ideas, but it's not really fair if I start throwing them out until we've heard from our guests.
Okay.
Right? So
All
I've got to wait.
So we got a caller on line one. Caller, what's your name?
Doug.
Doug, what is your answer? Okay, it's a two-part answer. What is the hottest and the most humid state in the United States?
The hottest has got to be. Now, is this for the whole state or
The whole
just
state.
one single spot?
The whole state.
Okay. Arizona,
Okay.
and I'm going to take Louisiana for humid.
No, that is not right.
No.
See, I thought it was Arizona too. So I was thrown for. Keep in mind, Arizona has the higher elevations there. So when you average the whole state together, yeah. All right. So caller line two. What's your name?
Joel.
Joel, what is your answer? The hottest and most humid state.
Oh, I'm going to say Arizona's the hottest. And we'll try Hawaii for the most humid.
No, that's not. Yeah, so Arizona, I know Arizona is not the hottest. So there's one down. Okay, caller, what's your name?
Yeah, it says mayonnaise an instrument.
Is mayonnaise?
He hung up right away.
Is mayonnaise an instrument? Oh, man. Jeez.
It was funny.
Does Justin work? Justin, get a job.
I don't think that was him.
Okay. Caller, what's your name?
My name's Eric.
Eric, all right. So what's your answer? What is the hottest and the most humid state?
I'm going to go with Alaska.
For not obviously not the hottest.
For the most humid.
Okay, and what about the hottest?
Ooh, Florida.
Bingo. You got it. Yes.
Hey.
Congratulations. Yeah, the hottest state is Florida, and I think a lot of people automatically go to Arizona because of the desert, but you forget the high terrain in northern Arizona takes that average of the state down. And Alaska being the most humid, people wonder why. Well, the temperature and dew point, it's so cold that the temperature and dew point are so close together in Alaska that you get that high humidity levels. In Alaska. Florida's not far behind, along with Louisiana, but Alaska takes the prize for the most humid state. So, well, congratulations. You know where our studios are at, correct?
I do.
Okay, we're going to put you on hold here, and Addison is going to get your info, and congratulations.
All right, thank you.
All right, you bet. Yeah, did you have that, Bridgette? I was thrown by.
I knew Florida.
Did you? I was thrown by Alaska, and after thinking about it, it's like, yeah, that makes total sense. I was thinking Louisiana too, as humid as it is down there, and they're close, but Alaska for the most humid state.
Hey, why not? I mean, we gotta look at all 50 states. We can't just think of the obvious when we have these types of questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent.
All right. So we've got about a minute or so left. Bridgette, you have a couple of ag topics you want to hit on, or?
I think we absolutely can. For those of you who farm and often think about, I want to do a side-by-side trial. I want to give this product a test run, but you're not really sure what's a good way to figure out how to manage that data. There's actually a new software platform called Farm Test, and its mission is to make every field smarter. It is helping farmers, ag retailers, and researchers figure out what really works at a field level. It's The software platform automates and enhances field trials, experiments where growers test different crop inputs, management practices, gathers data, does so much more. So farm test. For all of us who've done field work in the past, field trials, this would be helpful.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, for Bridgette and myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us here on Weather and Ag in Focus. Go out and have yourself a great rest of the day. The weather is beautiful. Jay Thomas Show, that's coming up next.